All right. Let's get this stream started. All right. Do I like these tiers? What are the tiers from the other ones? Let me see. What did the tiers I had before? Yeah, first things first, I think I'm just gonna redo the tier names. Just to have them, like, be in line with the tier names I had before. Just because I enjoy the consistency. Let me do that real quick. Alright, there we go. Now let's just start by actually gonna start by taking out all the ones that I just have not seen enough of, or even if I've seen like one or so episode of them, I'm just gonna take them out anyways because I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to rank them, so might as well not waste time doing it later. Might as well start by doing that. Yep, I haven't seen Wuzzles. I haven't seen Gummy Bears. I think I've seen like one or two episodes of the original DuckTales before. I have no idea if I've ever seen an episode of this Winnie the Pooh. I think I've seen like a couple episodes of a Winnie the Pooh cartoon before. And I think it was this one actually. I've seen a couple episodes, but not enough to properly rate it. Same thing for Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I think I've seen like 3 episodes of that one. I think I've seen an episode of that Tailspin. I think I've seen like 3 episodes of Darkwing Duck. I have never seen Goof Trip or the Little Mermaid cartoon or Raw Tunage or Bonkers or Marsupilami or Aladdin. Gargoyle Surf now. Or the Schnookums and Meat funny cartoon show. Is that what this is? Yeah, I think so. Seen some Neo, haven't seen Neo, haven't seen Quackback, haven't seen Mighty Ducks. I saw some of Nickelodeon's Doug. I think Disney's Doug is a different version of Doug than the Nickelodeon Doug, and I've never seen any of Disney's Doug, if that's the case. Unless they are the same show, I'm mistaken. Either way, just gonna put it in this section just to be safe, because I don't think I've seen any of the Disney run episodes of Doug. Haven't seen Jungle Cubs. Haven't seen Nightmare Ned. Haven't seen the original 101 Dalmatians cartoon. Haven't seen PB&J Otter. Haven't seen Hercules animated series. Clark, what's the Clark's cartoon doing on here? That's probably something that they made on ABC, but was still made by like Disney TV animation, probably. I think I saw one episode of that a long time ago. I don't think I ever saw Teacher's Pet. Lloyd in Space, it's been a long time, but it's been a long time since I've seen any of it, and I don't think I've seen it recently enough to be comfortably able to rate anything from it. Never seen the Tarzan animated series. Never seen Timo Supremo. I saw a couple episodes of Fillmore, and I did like it, but not enough to be able to like properly rank things here. Never seen the Boom Crew. Now we're getting to the era of Disney Channel where I've seen a lot more of these. Yeah, don't worry, there's going to be some shows in this list I'm actually going to be able to rank. I'm not going to just skip over all of them. Get Ed, I have not seen. Am I going to count the Disney Junior stuff? Eh, well, you've seen at least, I probably should. Have not seen My Friend Sticker and Pooh. Have not seen Special Agent Oso. Have not seen Jake and the Neverland Pirates. Have not seen Tron Uprising. Have not seen Two More Eggs. Have not seen Pickle and Peanut. Have not seen the Descendants animated series. Have not seen Elena of Avalor. Have not seen this, whatever this sequel to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is, I have not seen. Have not seen Billy Dilly's Super Duper Subterranean Summer. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Not sure if I did though. I just know him from recent episodes of Chibiverse. I think he appeared in. Haven't seen. What does that say? Fancy Nancy. I've not seen that. To do. Have not seen a Mickey Mouse Funhouse, whatever that is. I'm assuming it's another spin-off of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Have not seen Rise Up, Sing Out. Have not seen this Disney Junior Alice in Wonderland cartoon. Haven't seen Firebuds. Haven't seen Playdate Winnie the Pooh, I guess that's called. Have not seen the Ariel Disney Junior show. Haven't seen Zombies Reanimated, and I have not seen. I cannot read that. I don't know what it is either. I haven't seen it, so whatever. So yeah, these are the shows I think I'll be able to properly rank. So let's get started with that. Okay, of like the 90s Disney cartoons, I've seen some of a lot of them, but I think these are the only ones I've seen enough of to be able to properly rank. The ones I just have left here. From what I remember of Gargoyles, I remember really liking it. I just thought it was like I'm pretty sure it was Disney Channel's like answer to Batman the Animated Series at the time. Like I believe that this was released in the mid '90s, so that makes perfect sense timeline wise. And plus, that's just when these kinds of like superhero comic booky characters were like really popular, like Batman, Spawn, Hellboy, that kind of stuff. So it makes perfect sense for Disney to have released this when they did, honestly. But about the show itself, Gargoyles, from what I remember, I really enjoyed it. Like, the atmosphere was just like really cool and darker than expected for the channel. Honestly, it probably still has one of the darkest tones of honestly, any animated thing that Disney's probably ever released. and it just has like a really cool art style. And honestly, the main thing I remember from it though is just thinking that Keith David did a really good job as Goliath. I thought his voice for that character was really cool. Honestly though, I do not remember everything about the show, so I don't have too much to talk about right now for it. But from what I remember, I did thoroughly enjoy it. Maybe I should go back and watch more Gargoyles at some point. What's next? Timon and Pumbaa's cartoon. I remember liking this one. I honestly do not remember any specific moments or things about it aside from just like Timon and Pumbaa like traveling a more. I think they were like traveling around a more modern world from what I remember. Like it's been a long time since I've watched it, but I do remember watching a lot of it when I was younger. So yeah, I mean, I think Timon and Pumbaa are funny. I remember this one being funny, even though I don't remember any of the specific jokes or anything. So yeah, I also do remember the theme song was just like another version of Hakuna Matata, which I thought was, fitting. I mean, if you're a cartoon based on a movie and that movie already has songs, then might as well, I guess. It's gonna be as good of a theme song as anything else, I suppose. Yeah. Eventually, we'll get to shows I have a lot more to say about. It's just some of these earlier ones, even the ones I have seen a bit of, I just don't have the most nostalgia for, I guess. Recess. I remember really liking Recess. This one I remember being a ton of fun. Like just like the concept of like, hey, let's make a cartoon about like recess time at schools and let's see how far we go with that concept. And I think this show actually does a very good job at that because it's like I like how the playground in recess is very it feels very lived in. It has like a lot of like depth to it surprisingly enough. Like they have like a whole entire hierarchy in the playground with the king of the school. What was his name? Was it King Bob? I think that was his name, but that also is the name of one of the minions. Let me see if that was right. King Bob Recess. That was his name. Oh wow, that was right. So yeah, I just liked how they had like the whole hierarchy of like the school, and I thought that was just a very interesting. Honestly, Recess to me almost in a way feels like a precursor to Codename Kids Next Door just by like having like a bigger like social hierarchy for like these kids. Like, of course, in Kids Next Door, it's a lot more combative and a lot more just like because they have like a secret agency they work for. But in this, it's just like the kids made their own playground hierarchy, and I think that was really funny. I also just think that the I don't know. I just think it's a really funny, charming, creative cartoon with a lot of like I don't know, a lot of just enjoyable characters. I mean, yeah, I was just trying to remember some of the characters' names. I don't, at the top of my head, I do not remember a lot of them. And I think the main character is TJ. The sporty girl was Spinelli. Oh yeah, I do not remember a lot of these characters' names. I swear I watched a lot of Recess when I was younger. I just do have not looked back into it much in a very long time. I did really enjoy it though. Also had a really good theme song. Actually, of all the cartoons in this list so far that had original theme songs, because Timon and Pumbaa did not have an original theme song, I think it's my favorite of the original theme songs so far. Yeah, it's a solid, really good cartoon. We got Pepper Ann, which I have seen less of Pepper Ann than Recess, but from what I've seen of it, I think I actually like it more. Like, I believe Pepper Ann I remember seeing a factoid about it that said it was the first TV cartoon created by a woman. Last I checked, I believe that was true, and if so, I'm like, that's actually really cool, honestly. Actually, kind of disappointing that it took until 1997, I believe, for that to happen, but better late than never, I suppose. And honestly, Pepper Ann's a pretty good one to start out on that regard. What was her name? I should know her name. Sue Rose. When I was younger, I think I wanted to attribute Pepper Ann more to Tom Warburton of Codename Kids Next Door, but I believe he was more of just a character designer for the show than like the creator or one of the more creative leads of the show. I mean, I don't know. I actually do not know Mr. Warburton's involvement with Pepper Ann beyond just the character design. Like for a show we'll get to later with Randy Cunningham, I know that they brought in Jonan Vasquez of Invader Zim fame to do the character design for that show, but I believe that's all he did because I do not think any of the writing in Randy Cunningham was done by Jonan Vasquez because I think I'd be able to tell if it was, and it obviously did not feel like his stuff at all. But anyways, about Pepper Ann itself, honestly, to me, it's tonally kind of similar, like to Kids Next Door in the way like the comedy works and the characters are and stuff like that. Which I love Codename Kids Next Door, and it's honestly kind of weird that I brought it up twice in a row with these last two shows in comparison to Recess and Pepper Ann, but whatever. I don't know. I just remember it being really charming, really funny, just an enjoyable cartoon to watch. I also remember being very clever and having a lot of like wittier jokes that I think not like jokes I think adults would get more out of, but not just because they're like crude or anything, but just because they were more just like complex jokes that would definitely fly over kids' head, not because they weren't able to. Oh, Timon and Pumbaa. Yeah, I liked the show, but the reason it's there is just because I do not remember it well enough to be able to say I put it higher than that. To answer your comment, Luna loves BMW. Thank you for the comment, by the way. But as I was saying about Pepper Ann, um, I don't know. I just remember it being a really like charming, clever, creative cartoon that I really should see more of because I think I've honestly only seen like 5 or 6 episodes of the show, but I do remember really enjoying that. And that actually wasn't when I was a kid. That was actually like 2 or 3 years ago that I first watched Pepper Ann. I definitely should get around to watching more of it because I thoroughly enjoyed what I seen from it. Absolutely agree with the comment right there. Everyone should watch more cartoons. I mean, that's like half of what I even do, so I absolutely agree with that. Anyways, next up, Mickey Mouse Works, which I believe was where the shorts from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, no, not Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, where the shorts from Mickey Mouse House of Mouse was from, I believe. So would that count for like House of Mouse, since the shorts were like originally a thing on their own, but then they were put in that show. Should I rate these both? I don't know. No, Adventure Time was on Cartoon Network, I believe. So I think I'm gonna rate Mickey Mouse Works and Mickey Mouse. No, House of Mouse. For some reason, I keep on wanting to say Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. This is House of Mouse. I'll just rate them together. House of Mouse. I remember really enjoying when I was younger, and I also really enjoyed the shorts from it as well, which is what Mickey Mouse Works is. So honestly, I think it'd be fair if we just kind of put them next to each other. Honestly, with the like in between padding of House of Mouse kind of being like the Mickey Mouse shorts. I think the main thing I really enjoyed about House of Mouse, I mean, I enjoyed all of it, but my favorite part of it were the in-betweens. I believe there was a Christmas special of House of Mouse, actually. I actually never actually saw that one, though. Like, from what I remember from House of Mouse, I actually remember the, House of Villains special more. But I do remember seeing the VHS tape cover of the Christmas special, which actually sounds kind of fun. I should probably get around to actually watching that eventually, I think. Anyways, about House of Mouse, I just really liked, like, my favorite thing about it is the fact that it was like a big crossover between like a bunch of the characters from different Disney movies, and that I think it was like this is like one of the first times that a lot of these like people reprised their roles as these characters, because as far as I remember, they got a lot of the original voice actors and voice actresses back for their roles in House of Mouse. I do think they actually did replace. I mean, of course, they had to replace some of the older ones, but I do believe that they. I don't. I find it hard to believe that they got every single one, but I do remember they got a notable amount of the original voice actors back, which I think was really cool. And honestly, seeing them interact with the Mickey Mouse characters is just really fun. Anyways, I think like from more specifically from House of Mouse, I do remember this one more specifically. Like I was just saying when I was responding to the comment, um, I remember like the House of Villains special is like the main thing I remember from House of Mouse, which I remember being a lot of fun. I really think that was one of the first times Disney really took advantage of it having like a big rogues gallery. Would that be accurate? They're all villains from different movies, but I guess collectively they kind of would be in like the context of House of Mouse. Yeah, I remember like really enjoying that special as a kid. But I also did actually remember enjoying some of the more individual episodes, like the episode where Max and Roxanne went on a date at the theater, and the episode where I remember watching Ludwig von Drake's episode as well, but I forgot the specific context of that episode beyond just him appearing. I remember watching it and enjoying it, but I just forgot the more specific context of it. Anyways, House of Mouse, great show. By extension, Mickey Mouse Works, which filled the shorts in between House of Mouse. Also great, even though I never saw the shorts on their own. So next up, we got The Weekenders, which I think I'm going to put here in the like tier above Timon and Pumbaa. To me, I don't know. Interestingly enough, even though I don't have a bunch of the Disney Afternoon cartoons rated because I haven't seen enough of a lot of them, I do remember kind of feeling like a lot of the Disney Afternoon cartoons were kind of like really connected tonally. And I feel like a very similar way about actually the one Saturday morning they had like in the late 90s. Like stuff like Recess, Pepper Ann, and what we're talking about right now, Weekenders, I think all had like a really similar vibe to them. Like they had like earlier on, they were like focusing more on like the kind of like extended Mickey Mouse universe almost. But then in like the late 90s when they went to One Saturday Morning, they started focusing a lot more just on specifically a lot more child protagonists. I noticed like a lot of characters like hanging out with friends, going to school, that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what. Well, that's not specifically what Weekenders is about because Weekenders is about like the friends mostly hanging out on the weekends. That's why it's called the Weekenders. But from what I remember, it just is like a very another very just fun, charming, enjoyable cartoon with a very fun theme song as well. I remember being having the theme song to Weekenders being a lot of fun. Actually, I forgot to mention the Pepper Ann theme song. I was talking about like, hey, let's talk about the best theme songs of these shows when I go, and like I skipped Pepper Ann's. Pepper Ann has an awesome theme song. Why didn't I talk about Pepper Ann's theme song? Anyways, Weekenders is a lot of fun. Not as I don't think it's as good, or I don't personally like it as much as the ones I have above it, but I still do really like it, really respect it for it. Next up, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. This show, I think I'd put about right there. Yeah. Like, I think it's actually very interesting that this, like, it feels like for a long time, like, years going after this, the Toy Story franchise kind of now knows what it wants to be and knows exactly what it wants to do. Like almost everything about Toy Story, even if it's like not a movie, they kind of still feel similar tonally to the movies, and also they're CGI animated, like the stuff like the Toy Story of Terror short or the Toy Story That Time Forgot short and stuff like that. Or not shorts, I believe they're more like TV specials, but yeah, whatever. But I feel like Buzz Lightyear of Star Command is truly feels like one of the only like big spin-offs of Toy Story that feels different than Toy Story itself. I mean, I guess Lightyear was kind of like that too, but I think the earliest ones of those is Buzz Lightyear Star Command, which I think is honestly a great way to spin off the Toy Story franchise into a more interesting direction. Like, hey, we said like that, like Buzz Lightyear is a part of this like sci-fi franchise. Let's delve into that sci-fi franchise and see what that has going for it. And I remember it being a lot of fun. Like the characters, like besides from Buzz, a lot of the other original characters they introduced, I remember being a lot of fun to watch, being very interesting characters. Like the, I don't know. I feel like this is another one I haven't seen in a very long time. So it's like I'm mostly just going on memories from when I was a kid for this one. But I do specifically, the episode I remember more than any others is when that futuristic robot vampire showed up. I believe his name. Let me see if I can get his name off the top of my head. I believe his name was Nos4A2, which I'm not sure if I understood as a reference when I was a kid. I mean, if anything, when I was a kid, I thought it would have been a reference to SpongeBob more than anything, which now I know is not. But yeah, I mean, I think I did say earlier I'm not going to have like a ton to say about a lot of these earlier ones, but I did really enjoy Buzz Lightyear Star Command from what I remember, and it just being a very interesting direction to take that character. Yeah. All right. Honestly, I should probably talk about the Proud Family and Louder and Prouder right next to each other. Which honestly, from what I remember, I've seen a decent amount of both of them. I do not specifically remember if Louder and Prouder, like I do not I actually haven't seen the original Proud Family in a long time, so I actually do not know remember exactly if they have like a similar writing quality or writing style or whatever like that. But what I will say is I did very much enjoy both of them. I just thought it was an interesting kind of like because before this point, I mean, I think Fillmore might have been either the same year or a year earlier than the Proud Family. But either way, it was one of the earliest Disney cartoons to have a black protagonist, which I actually thought was really interesting when I was a kid. I was like, oh, I love learning about different cultures and different peoples like that. I didn't really realize that a lot of people had problems with that until later on, but you know, I don't know. I personally just like being I don't know, learning about different cultures that I'm not really a part of myself. I don't know. It's something that's always interested me. I don't know. Kind of depressing that other people have no interest in learning about things other themselves at all, but I guess that's not in my control, so. So about Proud Family itself. From what I remember, it just felt like another, it definitely felt like it was kind of trying to be like a like an animated sitcom for like comparable to something like I don't know, I guess something like Family Matters or like The Cosby Show or like a just like an animated version of like one of those like black sitcoms that aired in like the 80s or 90s. Which I'm like, honestly, just making thing something animated to me, like, yeah, that's enough. I mean, in my opinion, I think as many things should be animated as possible just because I just personally enjoy animation. I don't know. I think that's actually an interesting concept of itself, like how many different like sitcoms. Like when you go like animated sitcoms, like, oh, how many of these need to be animated? And to me, I'm like as many as possible because I enjoy animation. But a lot of them, I feel like that's just like I don't know. Why am I talking about this right now? I'm talking about Proud Family. I Proud Family to me, I remember it being a very funny, very charming cartoon. Also had an awesome theme song. I remember loving the theme song of this show. I don't know. I specifically remember thinking Oscar, the father of the Proud Family, was a really specifically funny character. I don't know, it's just something about those kinds of cartoon dads that just tickles me for some reason. I just think they're really funny characters. And also from if memory serves that this show also tackled a lot like not even just in the new run of course a lot of people are talking about like that in the new run of episodes like how they're actually talking about like a lot of specific like cultural things that most a lot of kids cartoons I don't think would ever really try to touch, but I feel like a lot of people talked about that in the new one, but from what I remember the original one did a lot of stuff like that too, and I honestly respect honestly any show that's willing to tackle those kinds of issues. From what I remember, the original show did it well, and I did also enjoy what the new show had to offer in that regard as well. Yeah, just Proud Family is just a really. It feels like just like a really fresh show for the network at the time, and also just like really entertaining and fun to watch. I don't know. Really enjoy Proud Family. Next up, we got Kid Impossible. Kim Possible. This will be the first show I think I'm putting up here on the list personally. I feel like Kim Possible was just the first ever Disney cartoon that I truly gelled with, I guess. I mean, I really enjoyed all of these, don't get me wrong. But I feel like Kim Possible was like the earliest Disney cartoon that I just like straight up like really, really liked. I don't know, just like the characters are just really just like had like enjoyable personalities and seeing them interact is just like always entertaining. Like seeing like Kim and Ron, like their like kind of like friendship and like banter they have sometimes is just really entertaining. I also just think like the a lot of the villains of the show specifically are just really, really entertaining characters. Like Draken, I think is a great villain. Shigo is my favorite character in the entire show. She's like just a very sassy, entertaining. I don't know. She's just a lot of fun to watch. Kind of like steals the show for me whenever she's on screen. But not just them, but also I think like some of the other villains like Duff Killigan and Monkey Fist and Senior and Senior Junior. Just a lot of the characters in the show are just like really creative and fun. I like when a show is able to have like just a rogues gallery of villains and just make them I don't know, just like what new puns can we come up with for this villain? I just think it's just kind of funny when it kind of is like because it feels like it's kind of like aping that kind of like almost like that like Silver Age DC comic kind of villains. I feel like they're trying to go for that like kind of tone, and I feel like they do it very well because a lot of the villains in the show are very very fun. Also, speaking of theme songs, Kim Possible has an awesome theme song. It's probably well, in debate with Pepper Ann, the best of the theme songs I have on here to this point. I mean, I guess for some of the ones I haven't seen as much, of course, I'm aware of the theme songs for some of them, and DuckTales and Rescue Rangers have awesome theme songs. But Kim Possible probably has the best one on the entire channel so far. I don't know what else to say. Just like great fun characters, really funny, great action sequences, and just like that. I feel like Kim Possible wasn't the first ever like cartoon about like a child hero who also has to go to school and balance all those like kind of things between like having to save the world and go to school. I always thought it was interesting that Kim Possible did not have a secret identity. Usually, cartoons like this, the whole thing is like, oh, I need to save the world, but also hide my secret identity so none of my family gets hurt or whatever like that. Like something like Spider-Man, or like we'll get to Randy Cunningham later, or like I don't think Miraculous would be on here. Would it be? I don't think Miraculous is a Disney. Yeah, it's not a Disney original, so it's not on here. No, it aired in the network for a time, or maybe it still is. I don't know. I have cable anymore, so I wouldn't be aware of myself. But yeah, just like that kind of like monster of the week or villain of the week action cartoon. I feel like Kim Possible didn't start it, but I feel like it's when I started to pay attention to them myself. Just a very, very, very good show. Lilo and Stitch the series. This one's relevant, isn't it? I also remember really enjoying this show when I was a kid. Interestingly enough, in a weird way, I feel like Lilo and Stitch the series is almost trying to like capitalize upon the popularity of Pokemon in a way, because like, hey, here's a bunch of different creatures in the series, and we just need to. Did they capture them? I think I remember there was like they put them in these like little orbs, and they had to like water the orbs to have them grow to full size or something like that. I don't remember 100%. From what I remember, that's what they kind of do with the experiments in Lilo and Stitch the series. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like a very, honestly, a fairly basic plot device, but it gets the job done. It shows you a lot of really cool character designs, so I'm not complaining. Anyways, I think my favorite additions to Lilo and Stitch the series would have to be, or what am I saying, additions? My favorite character addition to the series is Ruben, or Experiment 625. I just thought he was just like him and his banter with Gantu was really funny. And honestly, it's kind of interesting because you feel like, oh, if Ruben was in the original Lilo and Stitch movie, he would have fit perfectly tonally. So I wonder why he wasn't there. And maybe it would have overstepped it or something. But Ruben, I thought, was a really funny character. Also, I don't want to forget to mention this. I feel like when I think of like the old Disney Channel website where you could play Flash games and stuff on it, I think my favorite early Flash game on Disney Channel website was the Reuben sandwich stacking game they had. Didn't really bring that up for any reason besides the fact that I remember enjoying that Flash game. Yeah. I also, I guess, like Timon and Pumbaa. Lilo and Stitch series is another one of their cartoons based on an animated movie. They just used one of these songs from the movie as the theme song. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. It was a new theme song. I think I was just confusing it for a second with. No, that is untrue. That is not the case. I just thought about my head for a second, and I'm like, oh, I just assumed that it was a Hawaiian roller coaster ride, but from what I remember, like, no, it's different. Pretend I didn't say anything. Let's move on to the next one. Super Robot Monkey Team Hyper Force Go. Say that 5 times fast. I remember liking this show, so honestly, I don't remember too much about it, so I don't think I remember enough to put it there. But I think I will put it there. So, from what I remember, Super Robot Monkey Team Hyper Force Go. Is it the only Jetix? No, it's not. Yin Yang Yo is also on here. So I guess we have a couple of Jetix cartoons. I don't know. I feel like it was like the earliest example of a Disney cartoon specifically trying to like emulate the art style of like anime, which of course, like I believe Nickelodeon did around the same time with Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Cartoon Network doing a couple of years earlier with Teen Titans. I guess it was just like a thing at that time in the mid 2000s was trying to emulate the style of anime because I believe that's really when anime started to become popular in the United States was the late 90s, early 2000s. Like specifically, I believe when Toonami started airing Cartoon Network is when like anime started really becoming popular stateside. But anyways, about Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go. I remember it being enjoyable, and I remember watching a good chunk of it when I was younger. But if I'm being honest, I don't really remember that many specifics. Beyond just being a pretty fun, but albeit simple, like Monster of the Week kind of like action cartoon. I think it might have had a somewhat of an overarching narrative, but I do not remember seeing enough of it to be able to say that one way or the other. But I do very much remember enjoying the show, even though I don't really have that much to say about it. Next up, we have Dave the Barbarian, which I also thought was really funny. So I think I'll include it there. Honestly, of all the cartoons in those lists we have so far that I've ranked, I think honestly the funniest one might still go to Proud Family, but I think Dave the Barbarian just is. It was more specifically joke centric, and I remember it being really funny, so I think I just attribute that in my mind to being the earliest really funny Disney TV cartoon. But speaking of Dave the Barbarian's comedy, I just remember it being like, I don't know, a lot of those jokes are things I do remember to this day. Like, specifically, one that always kills me whenever I remember it is the one where Dave, for some reason, had to get a megaphone. So it was like, oh man, I have to invent a megaphone for this task I'm currently doing. So it was like, the narrator was like saying, like, so Dave, in the process of building a megaphone, got a squirrel, a piece of rope, and a megaphone. And I don't know, that's just the kind of joke that just like kills me. I guess it's just like nonsense humor, non sequitur stuff, but I genuinely a good non sequitur could knock me out. I don't know. Dave the Barbarian was really funny. Honestly, I'm not too surprised that it only lasted for one season either, because I do think the humor is kind of an acquired taste, and it did feel kind of, I don't know, kind of like those more like comedic, kind of like raunchier kids cartoons they had around those times, like Cartoon Network had Billy and Mandy, and Nickelodeon had Invader Zim. I feel like it kind of like not 100%, but kind of feels like it's within that realm of like animated comedies at the time. Yeah, Dave the Barbarian is good. What do we got next? Brandy and Mr. Whiskers. This one I also remember enjoying, but I don't think I've seen it in long enough to be able to rank it anywhere that high. So I think I'm just going to put it here. But Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, I feel like specifically, like what I just said with Dave the Barbarian, and that being similar to like Invader Zim and Billy and Mandy, I feel like it covers somewhat of a similar spirit to that. Even though I more specifically think Brandy and Mr. Whiskers is trying to be like more like Ren and Stimpy or like Cow and Chicken or I Am Weasel or something like that. It feels like it's going to more of that like gross out comedy of the time. But about what I thought of it myself, I remember enjoying it. Like I remember it being pretty funny. I remember liking the characters well enough. I don't know. I feel like it's just that kind of like easy kind of humor of having like just two characters that don't particularly get along and just getting comedy out of those interactions between the characters. And I feel like Brandy and Mr. Whiskers are kind of like that's just where most of the comedy of the show comes from, is just their personalities interacting in somewhat volatile ways, I guess. And that's just like a I don't know, just a good easy formula for good comedy. And I do remember the show being fairly funny. Even though I don't remember too many specifics outside of like just some of the characters and theme song and that kind of stuff. I did watch this a lot when I was younger, but I just haven't seen it in like I don't think I've watched it in like a good like 15 years or something like that. So it's been a while. But I do remember liking it. So yeah, American Dragon Jake Long. This one I'm also going to put in the the like tier. Or that's a good tier. I labeled these tiers myself. I should know what they're called. I'll put it here because I do remember thinking like the characters and stories and like fight scenes and stuff in American Dragon were really good. I remember really enjoying that. I feel like it was one of the earlier like American cartoons alongside stuff like Avatar and Teen Titans and Code Lyoko and Challenge Showdown that actually had like a story to it. And I remember really enjoying a lot of those aspects of the show. The one downside I will say about American Dragon Jake Long is that I thought the even though I enjoyed like the animation, a lot of the characters and the fights and stuff like that, I wasn't as keen on the humor or honestly some of the dialogue. I feel like I tried to go back and watch some American Dragon Jake Long a couple of years ago, and I actually kind of stopped midway through one of the episodes just because I didn't particularly enjoy the dialogue between the main three friends. I don't know, it just kind of felt like it was trying too hard to be cool to me. But aside from that, I do remember enjoying other aspects of the show. So I will say I still do like it, even though it's more from nostalgia more than anything else. Well, I mean, a couple other factors do think help it. Like, I do think that theme song of American Dragon Jake Long is great. I really love the theme song of that show. I also think it's kind of an interesting tidbit to like remember, like, oh, Dante Bosco played Jake Long in American Dragon Jake Long, of course, but he also voiced Zuko in Avatar, and those were both released the same year. I don't really have much of anything else to say about it. I just think it's an interesting coincidence. Also, another coincidence with American Dragon I want to bring up is the fact that it released the same year as Cartoon Network's Life and Times of Juniper Lee, which, even though they aren't the exact same cartoon, there's a lot of like shocking similarities between them. Like these two Asian American character, like teenagers, like who have like family secrets in which they have to like fight crime to figure out. Basically, I don't know. I just think that it's interesting how there are two cartoons released in the same year that are so tonally similar to each other. But honestly, of those two, I think I always enjoyed Juniper Lee a little more. I just think the dialogue in that show is a little bit better, if I'm being honest, from what I remember. But I still do overall like American Dragon Jake Long, even though it's mostly just nostalgically. The Buzz on Maggie. I liked the show as a kid, but I actually did go back to watch some episodes of it a couple of years back, and I think I'll put it in the okay tier. It's just like one of those shows. Like I really like the theme song of the show, and I do like some of the character designs. Like I love Maggie's character design. Like that's my favorite thing about the show. But honestly, actually watching a lot of the show, I feel like that was one of the main things that had going for it. Is I really liked some of the character designs because watching the show itself, it's not bad. I definitely think it had some enjoyable aspects to it. Like I do think the characters are kind of fun, and I do think it had an occasional good joke. But honestly, when I was watching it, I was like, this is kind of gross and not hilarious and kind of mean. I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of negative things to say about a show that I don't know. I do. really like Maggie as the main character, though. At least nostalgically, I did. From what I saw a couple of years back when I was rewatching the show a bit, she did seem like she was kind of a jerk, but in a kind of funny way. Honestly, she kind of reminds me of Frida from El Tigre in a way. But I think El Tigre honestly is a much better cartoon than Buzz and Maggie, if I'm being honest. Why am I comparing these shows to shows from other? I mean, it makes sense to compare things, I guess. If you're on a tier list, all you're doing is comparing things. So I guess if any place, this is the perfect place to compare things. What am I saying? I don't know. So yeah, I liked the Buzz and Maggie a lot more when I was younger, but you know what? It's okay. It's not bad to be in the okay tier. That means I still at least somewhat like it. Yeah. All right, next up we got Yin Yang Yo, which is kind of like the Buzz and Maggie, another show I did like when I was younger, but in hindsight, after watching some of it, it's fine. It definitely feels like in line with that era of TV animation where I feel like I don't know, I feel like in like the late 2000s, a lot of like the types of humor a lot of American cartoons had weren't as up my alley for a while. I mean, there were exceptions to that rule. Like we'll get to Phineas and Ferb soon, and also stuff like Chowder. So there were definitely things of that era that I did think were funny. But it just feels like there's a lot of cartoons that just weren't up my alley as much humor wise at that time. Even though I do like how Yin Yang Yo looks, and I do think it's kind of fun. It can be occasionally funny. It's not humorless, but I do remember it being just kind of like what you'd expect it to be. Like there's like a lot of like more predictable jokes that you kind of expect in these shows like the time. Yeah, I feel like Yin Yang Yo, another thing about it is it was like another one of those cartoons that was made to kind of like emulate that this one less so than some of the other ones, but it definitely has somewhat inspired by anime still, I believe, or at least just Japanese culture at the very least. And it's just kind of interesting to notice those kinds of patterns, I guess. Next up, The Emperor's New School, which I remember liking. I mean, The Emperor's New Groove is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, and it's probably one of my favorite comedy movies of all time as well. So it makes sense that I also like the animated series based on it. Even though I don't remember a lot of the jokes from the show as much as I do from the movie or even the sequel. Honestly, I think I remember some of the jokes from Krunk's New Groove better than Emperor's New School as well. Interestingly enough. But anyway, I remember enjoying the show. I mean, at the end of the day, it just feels like an excuse to tell more of those kinds of like the type of humor the Emperor's New Groove had in like the form of a TV show, which I absolutely enjoyed myself because I just as I just said, I love that movie. But I don't remember if the writing quality was up to snuff with that like on tier of the movie itself, but I don't know. It's just they're just characters I enjoy being around. So I don't know. One of the things I will say about the Emperor's New School, though, is the fact that, from what I remember, I don't think Pacha or his family were in the show. I remember Cusco being there, and I remember like Cusco's new classmate. I think her name was Melina. Melina, I think. And then, of course, Yzma and Krunk were still there. But I do not remember Pacha being there. That is strange. I mean, in something like Timon and Pumbaa, it makes sense that like Simba or the other characters aren't there as much because the show is called Timon and Pumbaa. In the Emperor's New School, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense that Pacha wasn't there because Pacha doesn't have to go to school. But I don't know. I feel like they would have wanted to put him in there in some capacity, but it's just kind of weird that they didn't do that. I don't know. Anyway, next up we got The Replacements, which is a show that I like. It kind of also feels like, as I was saying with like the Buzz and Maggie and Yin Yang Yo, and also I guess to an extent Brandy and Mr. Whiskers, it definitely feels like emblematic of this era of TV cartoons. I think as we're going through these, actually, Disney Channel's been around for such a long time. They kind of like feel them going through different eras of ways they design the characters and art styles of these cartoons over the years. And also, I guess, has to do not just like how they look, but how they are written as well. I feel like a lot of them like are kind of like emblematic of the era that they came from. I don't know. Replacements specifically though, I remember it being very fun. Like specifically, more than anything else, the concept was really fun. Of like, oh, what if there was like these two kids that like whenever there was somebody in their life they didn't like, they just called them. No, they just called this company and had them replaced with somebody who was quote unquote better. And by the end of the episode, they'd figure out they weren't actually better and they actually should appreciate the original person for what they were, which I actually think is a decent lesson to tell and actually kind of an interesting way to go about telling the lesson. It's a very entertaining plot device, I suppose. And I also do like that they, from what I remember, they didn't actually they sent the people they replaced onto a temporary vacation and then brought them back when the replacement didn't work, I guess. I don't know, it's just a very interesting concept for a show, which I remember thinking was pretty fun. I specifically remember thinking that the parents, I mean, Todd and Riley were orphans, I believe, but the replacement parents that they had hired to replace their actual parents, I remember being really fun. Good show. Good show. Now we got Shorty McShort Shorts, which I vaguely remembered enjoying some of the shorts from, but if I'm being blatantly honest, I think I remember if anybody here, I mean, I was probably here watching this that know who the mysterious Mr. Enter is, but if you don't know, he is a cartoon reviewer, YouTuber who I used to watch a lot back in the day, not as much anymore. But back in the day, he used to be one of the YouTubers I watched the most, mostly because I believe he was one of the earlier people on the internet who really talked about cartoons critically. I haven't seen him in a couple of years, so I actually don't know what he's up to these days. But one of the main reasons I know anything, well, no, I watched some of the Shorty McShort shorts, kind of like a tongue twister right there, when I was younger as well, so I do vaguely remember it from my childhood. But most of the stuff, when I think about Shorty McShort shorts, I just think about the mysterious Mr. Enter and his like scathing review of the shorts, which clearly I'm not as like hostile towards it. I just thought it was all right. I don't know. I just don't really have it in my heart to really just say like, oh, I hate this show or I hate this movie. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too like soft in some of these, I guess, but I don't know. It's my list. I can put things wherever I want. I mean, that means when there actually comes along a cartoon I dislike, that means it actually put in work for me to not enjoy it. I guess I don't really have that much to say about Shorty McShort Shorts beyond just, as I was saying, Mysterious Mr. Enter and also him getting the idea for his cartoon pilot growing around, I believe it was called. I wonder if that will actually ever materialize as a in animation. I don't know. Anyway, that's probably more than anybody said about Shorty McShort Shorts in years. I'm gonna move on to the next one. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. It's interesting having like preschool cartoons on here, which I just put most of them to the side down here because just haven't seen most of them because they just more or less don't interest me for the most part, unless they're like really good. Like there are some like preschool cartoons that I actually really do enjoy, like stuff like Arthur and Word Girl and Bluey, just because they're incredibly well written shows. Mickey Mouse Clubhouse feels like more what you expect from when you think about like a kid's like a preschool cartoon specifically. Like I feel like it's far less in that league with like Arthur and Bluey and more just like in league with like stuff like Barney the Dinosaur and Teletubbies and that kind of stuff. It's like I don't know. That being said, eh. Like honestly, from what I remember, I don't really think I ever really got anything out of this show. But I didn't remember hating it either. It existed. Had characters I was familiar with. I don't know. I guess I will say for an earlier CGI cartoon, it looks better than what you would expected at that point. I guess it didn't look amazing, but it looked fine for what it was. I don't know. I feel like it's interesting that this set a benchmark for how most of the later like Disney Junior cartoons are going to look because I think almost all of them for like at least like the last like 15, 20 years I believe are all CGI now. Like I think some of the early ones were different art styles, like things like PB and J Otter or like JoJo's Circus being stop motion, or even having some like hybrids like Bear and the Big Blue House. I feel like after Mickey Mouse Clubhouse though, almost all of them started being CGI. And I think CGI cartoons can look good, but I just personally have a lot more of a preference for 2D animation than 3D animation, specifically on like a TV budget, I guess. I mean, it's a preschool cartoon, not meant for older viewers. What do you expect me to say about it? Anyway, easy. Phineas and Ferb is one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It's obviously going up in the top tier for me. Like, it's probably I was debating what the funniest Disney cartoon before this point was among the ones I've already ranked. Phineas and Ferb blows those all out of the water comedically. This is one of the funniest cartoons ever written. I mean, as far as I've seen, but to be fair, I've seen hundreds of cartoons, so I don't say lightly that Phineas and Ferb is one of the funniest cartoons I've ever seen. It just cracks me up. I mean, almost all of the show I think is really funny to me, but to be honest, I think like more than any other character, Doofenshmirtz is doing most of the heavy lifting there for me because I think Doofenshmirtz is a hilarious character, but also a very complex and interesting enough character. Like he didn't need to be as complex as he ended up being for just being like a comedic villain character, but he ended up being like a fully well realized, fleshed out character. And I really appreciate that because he could have just been a joke the entire time, but I think it's interesting that they actually tried to build on his character. I mean, I guess when we're talking about like a really funny characters in Phineas and Ferb, though, Candace also comes to mind. But I think I should probably take a couple steps back and talk about the show in more broader strokes, though. The show, as I established, is really, really funny. Also, just really creative plot wise in an interesting way because even though each and every episode of Phineas and Ferb had like two to three different plots, like one for what Phineas and Ferb were building, one for like Candace trying to get Linda to bust her brothers, and one for like Perry fighting against Doofenshmirtz to thwart whatever evil scheme he has, and then it all culminating in the end of the episode with the thing that Doofenshmirtz was doing being thwarted and somehow leading to what Phineas and Ferb were building being destroyed as well. Like right at the exact correct time that Candace would get to the backyard to show the mother what her brothers were doing. Like when you're watching it, it just feels easy. But actually thinking about the mechanics of writing something like that is gives me a lot more respect for what they're doing. Because what they're doing is a very honestly, it's you could say it's very repetitive and formulaic, which I guess it is in some ways, but at the same time, I was like them making plot lines this creative and funny, like specifically being able to make this show work plot wise is crazy to me because I believe one of the reasons why it took Phineas and Ferb so long to be greenlit for a series is just because most of the TV channels said like, oh, we don't think we could comfortably do that within our budget because it's just such a mechanically complex series to write and put together behind the scenes. But they made it work, and it's probably Disney Channel's most popular cartoon ever. I don't know. I guess just let the creatives do what they're best at is just a good idea. But that's just my opinion, I guess. But anyways, oh yeah, you also have to cram a song into each and every episode too. Like beyond just the intricately woven plot. I mean, at the end of the day, none of the not many of the plots of Phineas and Ferb are that like serious, but still, like when it comes to like comedic storytelling, that takes work as well. It takes a lot of work to make something funny, and it takes a lot of work to make something feel relatively cohesive. And we have as many different parts of a series as Phineas and Ferb does. Having them all coalesce in satisfying ways at the end of most of the episodes is a kind of a Herculean task in a way, but they make it work. And I think that's one of the many reasons why it's a fantastic cartoon. Aside from me thinking it's really funny and really clever, and I really like a lot of the songs. Honestly, it's surprising how many of the songs are as good as they were with how many of the songs they had. Not every song in Phineas and Ferb is amazing. There are some duds here and there, but on average, the amount of bangers that the show had is surprising for how quickly they had to make them. I don't know. Phineas and Ferb is just like a feat of a cartoon behind the scenes, but it is was well worth the results because it is awesome. That being said, we'll see what happens to it when it comes back this summer. I very much am interested to see what they do, but well, I don't know. We'll see. I guess I can't really talk about it because it's not out yet. We'll see. I'm looking forward to trying it out again, though, at the very least. I'll say that. Kick Buttowski Suburban Daredevil. I remember liking the show. Honestly, put it like right there. Yeah. Yeah. So about Kick Buttowski, it definitely feels like an early Disney XD cartoon to me, which is like for what people who don't know, Disney XD was originally Jetix, so I believe a lot of the they're trying to have like that channel have its own tone different from the Disney Channel itself. So it's trying to, I guess, Disney Channel itself was trying to be an all audience channel, which I personally think it succeeded at. But I guess the demographics for Disney Channel leaned more female. So Disney XD's goal was to try to capture more of a male audience for the Disney Channel, which I think might have also been what Jetix's goal was. And Jetix, I believe, started in like the mid 2000s, but it eventually turned into Disney XD. So that means a lot of things like Yin Yang Yo and Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperverse Go in a certain way are like almost like primitive Disney XD cartoons in a way, because tonally I think they're kind of similar to what Disney XD would have made. So about Kick Buttowski, I'm like, yeah, this makes perfect sense for being like the first original cartoon made in Disney XD. I mean, about like a little like evil Knievel like inspired boy who loves to skateboard. I'm like, yeah, that makes perfect sense for the first cartoon on a channel that was like all about like I guess extreme sports was mostly what their advertising was around. Like actually extreme sports and video games. I guess that's like most of like what the advertising around Disney XD was. But this definitely leaned like the extreme sports side of that thing. I don't know. Well, as for the quality of the show itself, though, I remember liking it. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I remember enjoying it when I was a kid. Yeah, just like that, like it kind of felt tonally similar to a lot of the other cartoons at the time, like I was saying, with stuff like replacements. I mean, even though this was a couple of years after that, but still think it lingered. But I do remember thinking it was funny and having charming enough characters. But I don't remember a lot about it, if I'm being honest, beyond just remember liking what I saw of it. That's an interesting thought, actually, to have. Like, I remember that I liked something more than any of the content itself. I don't know. I guess I don't have that much to say like Kikutowski, but I do like it. Fish hooks. Fish hooks. I honestly think I just found okay. I do remember watching this when I was younger, but I also did revisit it a little bit, like a couple years afterwards, because I don't know. I like to have like revisit cartoons from time to time from my childhood, and Fish Hooks specifically. I don't know. It's strange that I don't like Fish Hooks more than I do, because from what I remember, a lot of the people who worked on this show are like cartoon alumni from other shows I really respect. Let me actually see who specifically worked on Fish Hooks. It was created by Noah Z. Jones, which I don't think I'm terribly familiar with beyond Fish Hooks. But it also had, like, C.H. Greenblatt worked on the show. And I believe Maxwell Adams. Did Maxwell Adams work on the show? Yeah, Maxwell Adams worked on the show. Mr. Warburton of Codename Kids Next Door worked on the show. So there's like a lot of Cartoon Network alumni working on Fish Hooks. And also, Alex Hirsch worked on the show before I started working in Gravity Falls. He even voiced one of the characters in it, Clemantha. Like, there are a lot of people working on Fish Hooks that I really respect and enjoy the work of. So it's just strange that I don't have as many positive things to say about Fish Hooks itself. I mean, I do remember liking it at least a bit. I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm kind of mixed on gross out humor, and I feel like Fish Hooks had a lot of that. But I do remember thinking it was like mildly amusing beyond that, and thinking some jokes are funny or some characters are kind of clever. But honestly, it's not amazing to me or anything like that. It's not like one of my favorite things of all time. I think it's just like it's fine enough for what it is, but I guess I'm more just like am interested to see how stacked the like alumni of the show were than like watching the show itself. I think I kind of feel similarly to Cartoon Network's Flapjack, but I do think I actually would say I legitimately enjoy Flapjack in comparison, I guess. I mean, Flapjack was more of a springboard for Cartoon Network creatives, where I feel like Fish Hooks just seemed to be where a lot of Cartoon Network creatives ended up after Cartoon Network changed presidents in like 2007 and like ousted a lot of its old talent. Man, the late 2000s were kind of a dark period for Cartoon Network. But this is about Disney, so I should be talking about Disney. Oh yeah, I guess I don't have to talk about Justin Roiland. Justin Roiland voiced the character in Fishhooks. I do not respect Justin Roiland as a person. I guess I used to think he was a fun enough voice actor, but now after knowing some of the things he's done, I just don't respect him at all anymore. It's hard to praise the work of somebody of a person you do not like. I don't know. Anyway, take two with Phineas and Ferb. This is like the little like talk show thing they've done. They did after a while. I mean, it is Phineas and Ferb, so I still do like it somewhat, but I remember these being a lot more stilted and not as clever or sharply written as the regular Phineas and Ferb episodes. But I did still enjoy them well enough because they are Phineas and Ferb, and I do love Phineas and Ferb. Yeah, but I already talked a lot about Phineas and Ferb, so I guess I'll just this is like it's more Phineas and Ferb if you finish the proper series, I guess. But I never watched all of these, and I love Phineas and Ferb, so I don't know. It's fine. Not great though. Then we have Motor City, which honestly is my second show I'll put in this category. Yeah, I loved Motor City. It's just like usually, I mean, for the most part, I'm a lot more big of a fan of like more comedic cartoons tonally than action cartoons. But a lot of my favorite cartoons of all time are kind of both of those things, anyways. But that being said, I feel like Motor City is one of my favorite straight up action cartoons of all time. I mean, to me, it's just probably one of the coolest looking cartoons I've ever seen. It just looks awesome. I love the art style of Motor City. I love the animation. It's just a cool show to watch. And of course, that leans a lot to like the. I guess they're less fight scenes and more just races, but I don't know. The action scenes in Motor City are just awesome. Along with just like a lot of the characters just being enjoyable. Like specifically, I remember a lot of the villains in the show being a lot of fun. Like Abraham Kane, the big bad of the show, was like a legitimately intimidating villain. But honestly, my favorite antagonist of the show was Duke of Detroit, though. Duke of Detroit was just a really, I don't know, just a really funny, entertaining character that kind of stole the show whenever he was on screen. I don't know. The main thing I remember about Motor City, more than anything else, even though I do enjoy a lot of aspects of the show, was Duke of Detroit's limo cannon. I thought when I was a kid, I thought it was just like really funny, but also kind of cool in a way. I don't know. I really wish that Motor City got more than just one season because it had like it didn't just have potential. It was a great show as a whole that deserved to go on for longer because I was legitimately interested in seeing where its story went and what happened to its characters and stuff like that. But it wasn't meant to be. I wish we could have gotten more of it, but from the one season it had, Motor City was awesome. Next up, we got Gravity Falls. I don't think there's any surprise that Gravity Falls shoots immediately to the top of our current list. I don't think that's a shock at all. I don't know what else can I say about Gravity Falls that hasn't already been said. It's like it. I feel like it was one of the first like big cartoons of the 2010s to start like focusing like more on like its story and overarching narrative than like other parts of the show. Like I don't know. I feel like I think Adventure Time might have also started to become more story driven about the time, and I think that's also when The Legend of Korra was airing. So it wasn't the first cartoon to be like super story driven. I mean, like, of course, there's like Teen Titans and Avatar before that point as well. But I feel like it was one of the shows that really like started like the big boom of serialized cartoons that we had during the 2010s. I feel like Gravity Falls and Adventure Time, I feel like we're both kind of like the nexus points of that. I mean, beyond just Gravity Falls having like a really interesting story to follow with like a lot of like little like secrets to find, ciphers to decode, and stuff like that. Beyond that, the characters are just really likable and charming and just fun to watch. And of course, the jokes are great. Honestly, I was saying Phineas and Ferb was the funniest Disney Channel cartoon up to the point where it was released, and I still think that is accurate. But man, Gravity Falls gives it a run for its money. Like, Gravity Falls has a great overarching narrative full of like intrigue and like, oh, I wonder where this is going. But also is one of the funniest cartoons the channel's ever had. I mean, like Gravity Falls just has it all. It's just like interesting and fun characters, hilarious, a gripping plot that leaves you on the edge of your seat. And honestly, Bill Cipher, while not my favorite Disney cartoon villain to that point, because I think I do kind of like Doofenshmirtz more, Bill Cipher is definitely a lot more villainous. He is hilarious, but he's also evil. So he's able to strike that balance of like not being like just a purely comedic villain because he has like actions behind his threats, I guess, which makes him like, despite how funny he is also just a very intimidating character. Speaking of the characters in Gravity Falls, though, I should probably go into them as well because I love the cast of characters in Gravity Falls. Like the main twins, the Pines twins, Dipper and Mabel, I think are both great characters. Like Dipper being more of like the mystery solving introvert of the two, and Mabel just being tons of fun. She's just like this like fun goofball who loves just to joke around and have fun. And I don't know. I feel like just like characters like Mabel are just kind of like infectious to watch. Just like their optimism is just like it's just so fun. It's just so charming to me. I don't know. I think Mabel's archetype of character is one of my favorite kinds of characters. She's just like so fun. But beyond that, we also have, I mean, debatably, I think when I was originally watching the show, Mabel was my favorite character. But I think now that might have changed over to Grunkle Stan, who I just think is also just a really funny character, but also a really in-depth, interesting character at the same time. He's just like a very, I don't know. I think that one of the best ways to get an audience really invested in a show or set of characters is just make them laugh before you make them cry. Like if you just like spend quality time with a lot of these characters and like get to know who they are, and then throw them into life-threatening peril, you'll be a lot more attached to them in the long run. And I feel like Gravity Falls is a great example of that because, like, of course, like these characters are a ton of fun to be around during downtime, but when shit gets serious, you're like, oh no, I don't want something bad to happen to this character. I don't know. I feel like comedy is a very underrated method of making compelling characters. I don't know. Overall, Gravity Falls is fantastic, but you already knew that. Like, it's just like only one of the most popular cartoons ever made at this point. Anyways, what do we got next? Randy Cunningham, ninth grade ninja. Hmm. I think I'm gonna put Randy Cunningham in the like tier. I was gonna say relatively low in the like tier, but then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, I'll put it. I think I'll put it below replacements right there. So Randy Cunningham, Nitrate Ninja. I already talked about the show a decent amount in this stream already, interestingly enough. But Randy Cunningham's like whole thing is I feel like it's just another one of those like villain of the week kind of action cartoons that kind of follows in the footsteps of things like I guess classic Spider-Man comics in extension to that Spider-Man cartoons, but also like Kim Possible. Like very much that kind of like new villain every episode. But specifically, I mean Randy Cunningham did have some villains, but I feel like it's interesting when like shows like this because like Randy Cunningham to me I think is a lot more similar to actually Miraculous more than anything else, and it came out first, which I think is interesting because its whole thing is not having a ton of villains, but having like big bads who like use their powers to like curse regular people into being the villains of the episode, which I think was an interesting and clever way to go about like making new villains for every episode. I don't know, it's just a very I mean, at this point, it's been done a couple of times. At the time when Randy Cunningham came out, I thought it was very novel, very interesting. A couple other things to say about Randy Cunningham, as I think that the art style of the show is awesome. I love how the show looks, and I love how the show animates. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Jonan Vasquez did the character design for the show, and I love Jonan Vasquez's work, so that makes perfect sense to me. On the other hand, though, just like Jake Long, I feel like the dialogue in the show is kind of interesting. I'm kind of mixing it because I feel like it's often pretty, I don't know, just trying to be like cool, but not like coming off as like more lame than anything else, I guess. And like a lot of the dialogue just being more cringy than funny. I don't know. I still did enjoy most of the other things that the show had to like provide, but it's another one of those shows where like I overall do really like it, even though I don't think I'd enjoy watching it as much now, if that makes any sense. Like I respect it more nostalgically than I actually would like it now, but I still do have those fond memories, so I still do think I like it. And plus, the show was a visual delight, so I think that actually has a lot of points going for it as well. It's just a slick looking show that's fun to look at. And I don't think there is no merit to the characters in the writing. I do think that it did some things well in those regards as well. But when all is said and done and the dust settled with the show after being over for so many years, the main thing I remember about it is the kind of like corny jokes and cringy dialogue, I guess, even though I do like a lot of the show. I don't know. I feel like I'm being a little more negative on these shows in the like tier than I should be. Because I do like these shows legitimately, but I just, I guess, also do have some complaints about them and reasons for why they're not higher, I guess. I don't know. Sofia the First is probably one of the only other Disney Junior cartoons that I actually probably have something to say about. This one I also do like. I'll put it here. I think the main reason why I watched this show was just because I was interested to see what the Disney princesses they had cameoing in it did. Like I was kind of curious to see what those characters did, and I ended up liking the show as a whole after I actually checked out those episodes, just because I'm like I don't know. I feel like it was a fairly fun clever, just enjoyable cartoon. It was just more of a cartoon that I thought like that was enjoyable to be in the world of when I was watching it. I don't know. A lot of the songs were really good too. I mean, I guess that's one of the things that a lot of like the better like preschool cartoons do is that they have like a more wholesome atmosphere to them than most other forms of entertainment. So one of the main reasons I think a lot of like older people probably go to these kinds of shows is they just enjoy like the vibe they present. And that was definitely me with like Sophia the First. Like I watched a lot more of it than I probably am willing to admit, but I don't know. I remember liking it. Yeah. Paul Rudish's Mickey Mouse shorts are hilarious. There we go. Genuinely, I was saying like, oh, Phineas and Ferb is like the funniest show on Disney Channel. Gravity Falls is the funniest show on Disney Channel, or debatably so, I guess. But the Mickey Mouse shorts from 2013 are so funny. They are legitimately some of the funniest cartoons I've ever seen in my entire life. It's just like I don't know. I guess they're just perfectly up my alley. It's just that kind of like wild manic energy that they have. Like I think one of the my favorite things about Paul Brundish's Mickey Mouse is that you don't I don't think anybody ever expected Mickey Mouse characters to be presented this in this much of a silly fun way. Like I feel like Disney more or less has kind of like a sanitized way they like showing and presenting like characters like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy. And this kind of feels antithetical to the kind of image they're kind of giving Mickey before this point. But I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of love it. It's just like, let's just build Mickey Mouse with kind of like those modern day cartoon sensibilities of like the kind of humor that was popular in cartoons at the time. Which I feel like in the mid 2010s started going a lot more back into the more clever direction than I feel like the late 2000s, early 2010s is more just kind of like more just like potty humor, I guess. I don't know. It's genuinely one of the funniest cartoons I've ever seen in my entire life, and there are some moments of the show just thinking about them makes me want to laugh. Like specifically, like when I was younger, me and my siblings loved the Potato Land episode, and honestly would quote it like all the time when we were kids. It's just so funny. Also, I should probably rate The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse right next to it. Where is that? Oh, right behind my avatar. And I'm gonna rate it like right next to it because it's basically more of the same show. I mean, I believe The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse had longer segments, and that's what differentiates it as its own show. But I'm like, it's more of the same show, and I love the original show, so of course I loved the this extension to it as well. I'm actually kind of surprised they actually ended up building a ride for Paul Rogers' Mickey Mouse. I don't know. I've never been on it myself, but I've seen footage of the ride. It looks kind of cheap, but I don't know. It's cool it exists. Anyway, Wander Over Yonder is another like absolute favorite of mine. I love Wander Over Yonder. It's one of the I don't know. Craig McCracken just makes great shows. Like from Powerpuff Girls to Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends to after this that he made Kid Cosmic. He just I don't know. It just the kind of cartoons that Craig McCracken makes are like almost like some of the perfect like up my alley cartoons I could think of. He's just He is just like a genius, and he's like one of my favorite cartoon creators of all time. Like Wonder of Yonder, it's like I love how the show looks. It just has like a super appealing, fun, creative art style to it, and just like is also one of the funniest cartoons I've ever seen in my entire life. But I feel like a lot of the jokes in the show are really good, but I just also loved how a lot of the characters bounced off each other comedically. Like almost all the main characters in the show, like Wander, Sylvia, Lord Hater, Commander Peepers, they're all just like really charming, fun characters, but they're also hilarious. And I think that's I don't know. There's just something about like the comedic writing at Disney Channel in the early 2010s or like early to mid 2010s, I guess, because I was just praising the humor of like Paul Rudish's Mickey Mouse and Gravity Falls at the same time. But Wander of Yonder, it's just so funny, and I feel like Lord Hater to me is one of the funniest cartoon villains of all time. He just cracks me up. Just thinking about him makes me laugh sometimes, just because he's just so funny to me. I don't know. I guess I'll talk about Wonder himself too. Like I think Wonder kind of is another example of the thing I was talking about with Mabel before, of that just being like a really like optimistic, happy-go-lucky, fun character, and that being one of my favorite archetypes of characters. That extends to Wonder as well, because he's just a joy of main character. I know some people find Wonder overbearing and annoying, but I just personally think he's hilarious. I love him. He's just like so sweet, so nice, but also just like hilarious at the same time. He's just fun. This entire show is a lot of fun. I am so upset that it didn't get its third season. I would have loved to have more of it, but I also would have loved to see where the story was going. But because during the second season of the show, they actually started having a storyline. Oh, and I guess I should also mention the other character they introduced in season two. Lord Dominator is a another like hilarious but fun villain and is far more intimidating than Lord Hater ever was. I don't know. Lord Dominator is just like really cool, but also really intimidating, but also really funny. I don't know. This show is just so good. The musical episode of season two also is my favorite episode of the entire show. And like, I sometimes just go back to listen to some of those songs to this day, just because like they're so good. Craig McCracken works magic. I don't know what else to say. 70 was good. I remember liking it. I'll put it here. I think it's just kind of interesting. Like, just like Paul Rudish's Mickey Mouse, like, these are supposed to be like the seven dwarves from, like, the original Snow White movie, I think, kind of. But, like, revamped to fit, like, the kind of, like, tone of, like, a cartoon of the era. I don't know. I think it's interesting that Disney did this a lot during this time because it feels like nowadays they like their characters to look as uniform as possible across all mediums. But them like allowing creators to like make new visual designs for a lot of these characters, I think is actually kind of interesting. I don't know about the show itself. I guess for the 70, I thought it was pretty funny, and I liked a lot of the characters. It was just a fun, charming cartoon. Honestly, I think I'm actually gonna put it above some of these others now that I talk about it and I remember it more. At least there. Yeah, it looks better. But the main thing I remember of the 70 is that the villains reminded me of Team Rocket from Pokemon a lot. And I just remember that being fun. I mean, I don't know if they're actually based on Team Rocket, but like, come on. I mean, there is a more explicit Team Rocket reference later, and on this list, like right in big. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to talk about like the Team Rocket XPs when I talk about Big City Greens because there's so many other things to talk about with that show. But I think it's just kind of interesting that there's more than one set of villains on Disney Channel that remind me of Team Rocket. I don't know. Maybe they're just that like influential of anime villains. I guess I don't know. I mean, I love Team Rocket, but you know. Pen Zero Part-Time Hero. I liked this show, and I'll put it there. I don't know. Pen Zero, I think my favorite thing about it is the concept and the like each episode taking place in a different alternate dimension that Penn and his friends had to be transported into to save. I thought was just a very creative, fun plot device for the show. I don't know. I think my favorite thing about it, like beyond that, is just like the fact that going to these different dimensions mean they had to design like so many different alternate universes for the show to take place in. And I just enjoyed seeing what other places the show comes up with to go to. I mean, I did also think the show was pretty funny, and I did like the characters quite a bit. But my favorite thing about it was just like the ever-changing settings they had with the alternate dimensions. I just thought it was like super creative and fun to see what set pieces and character designs they had in each and every one. I don't know. I liked Spin Zero. Yeah, not too much to say about it beyond that though. Star versus the Forces of Evil. This is an interesting one because I adored Star versus the Forces of Evil for the first like 2.5, 3 seasons. I kind of thought the quality kind of fell off pretty hard during the final season, and also I thought like the ending of the show, I was kind of mixed on Cleaved. With all of that being said, I still love the show. Like I'm not just gonna throw up the first like 2/3 of the show just because I didn't like the last third. Because I genuinely did love those first 3 seasons of Star versus the Forces of Evil. I just wish it stuck the landing better, but I loved the characters. I loved the world building. I loved the story, but loved emphasized there because I thought the storyline of the first 3 seasons was actually very interesting, and I found to be very compelling. I just didn't really enjoy as much where it went later on. I don't want this entire conversation about Star just to be weighted down by like what I didn't like about it though, because I genuinely love a lot of things with the show. So I guess I'll just get those out of the way now. Like during the last season, I think the specific problems I had was just the love triangle with Star and Marco and the other characters just kind of felt like started. I mean, it was always kind of there, but I felt like it kind of just like took up way too much of the show's runtime during the last season. And I'm like, I didn't really care about it, and it kind of just like made other characters just like I don't know. It just was kind of annoying to watch after a while. It's like I know where this is gonna end. Just do the thing. Stop leading on like Jackie and Tom. I don't know. But also, I think like the whole twist. I mean, should I spoil shows here? I'm not sure if I should spoil shows here. But like the twist with Star's mom near the end of the series, I'm just like, that was so stupid to me. And how they resolved it afterwards so quickly, I was like, come on. And like the big like decision at the end of the series that Star had to make, I'm just like, I don't like what this decision is emblematic of. It just feels like the easy way out, and it also just feels like I don't know. It just feels like a cruel decision for no reason. It just felt like an easy decision to me. An easy and cruel decision. I don't know. But as I said, I was just like going to get those out of the way so I could talk about the things in Star versus the Forces of Evil that I do actually like. Like for the first 3 seasons, I loved the characters. Like to me, Star is a great, fun protagonist. And Marco is also a really fun deuteragonist, I think, as well. It's just like I think they kind of like to balance each other out very well. Like Star being the more like hyperactive, like optimistic one, and Marco being kind of more of the realist, but also kind of like more of like reserved personality wise. And of course, as the series goes along, Star became more mature and Marco became more outgoing because like that's kind of what some of the character arcs were. But I don't know. I just think they have like a really fun dynamic as friends. Honestly, as soon as they started becoming romantic, I was honestly a lot less interested in their dynamic. But because I think they got along a lot better as friends. I don't know. But early on, I did love them as characters. I also loved the story was going for like the first 3 seasons. Honestly, I thought like the things they did with Toffee were great, and what they did with the principal of the princess jail school. I forgot her name, but I thought the plot line they did with her was also very interesting. Meteora, I believe that was her name. And also, even in the last season of the show, I don't think it had anything I didn't like. Like I didn't dislike all of it because Eclipso's there, and I thought Eclipso was a great character, and her plotline I thought was actually really enjoyable. I thought it was really well done. I also thought the show earlier on. I mean, I became a little more mixed on the humor near the end, I guess, as well. But those first couple of seasons, I actually thought were really, really funny as well. I don't know. It was just a show I was like completely engrossed in early on, and just I never really lost interest. Honestly, I watched all the episodes as they came out. I was just kind of like disappointed in the direction they went, like in the last season still. But I do still really, really love the show despite all that. Like, even though I have like a lot of complaints for Star versus the Forces of Evil, I think for me there are so many different pros to the show that they far, far outweigh the cons to me. And also maybe it's just because of like a little bit of sunk cost fallacy to me too, because I was emotionally invested in the show for so many years. And I do love the characters in the world, at least like somewhat. So I don't know. Anyway, Future Worm is it's alright. Is it alright? I was gonna move it down to the Mets here, but like I don't think I care enough to do that, honestly. I remember being fine. Like I remember having like an occasional joke that made me chuckle, and I did like some of the characters, but overall, it's just like I mean, I do think crude humor can be done well because I do love shows like Invader Zim and Flame Mandy, but when it's not done well, I could tell, and I just notice because Future Worm. I mean, I thought it was fine, but I didn't love it. I don't have a lot to say about Future Worm. I do have quite a bit to say about Milo Murphy's Law, though. And I will put it here. I mean, I don't love Milo Murphy's Law as much as I love Phineas and Ferb, but I do still love it. Like to me, like of course it's from the same creative staff as Phineas and Ferb. It's just making another show. I love like when a creator or group of creators for a cartoon like get along very well like creatively and are allowed to make another show. I don't know. I feel like that just means like, oh, look, we have like more ideas than just that first show. And to me, like, I was kind of disappointed that they never got Weird Al to guest star in the original Phineas and Ferb, but Milo Murphy's Law definitely more than made up for that because I'm like, hey, I'm sorry we couldn't put you in the original series we made. How about you be the main character in the next one? I don't know. I feel like Weird Al's just like sense of humor melds with like uh, Dan Povenmire and Jeff Swampy Marsh's like almost perfectly. So I'm like, oh, that makes perfect sense to put him as the main character here. It just works so well. And of course, Milo Murphy's Law, the main character Milo, being a descendant of the Murphy's family, in which Murphy's Law was the term was coined. So I'm like, yeah, the entire premise of the show is like, oh, the main character is incredibly unlucky and has to like is somehow remains optimistic despite all the hardships he goes through. And I don't know, it's a very easily compelling plot device for the show. And plus, just like Phineas and Ferb, the show is really funny and really creative. But to me, the main characters that steal the show in Mel Murphy's Law are Balthazar Cavendish and Vinny Dakota as the time traveling pistachio protectors of the future. Is just a really funny concept for characters to me, and I think it was very enjoyable as well. Also, I think another interesting thing about Milo Murphy's Law is the fact that it was a lot more story driven than the original Phineas and Ferb was, because there is an overarching plot to Milo Murphy's Law that has to do with the time travelers from the future protecting pistachio plants. I don't think I want to go more in depth to that right now because I think it's just funny leaving it there for the people who don't know. It's just important for them to protect those pistachios. I don't know. Also, just like Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law didn't have a song in every episode, but they still had a lot of songs, and a lot of the songs are still really good and really fun to listen to. Just another really fun, really charming, hilarious cartoon. Yeah. Actually, one thing I will say about Milo Murphy's Law as well is the fact that during the second season of the show, when they added like Doofenshmirtz to like the rotating cast of characters to the show, I mean, I love Doofenshmirtz, so I personally didn't mind that much. But at the same time, I do kind of see the argument some people make that he kind of took too much screen time from the character, like the new characters the show established. That I do agree with. I don't mind them using Doof in the show, but I do think they probably should have used him more sparingly and let the new characters breathe more. Because honestly, in the second season, I remember a lot of the characters in the show, like a lot of the new characters in the show, like not getting nearly as much screen time because Doof was taking up the screen time. I don't know. That's a weird thing for me to debate because I do love Doofenshmirtz, but this is its own show. Let its own characters shine. I don't know. Anyway, love My Murphy's Law. The Lion Guard, I also saw a couple episodes of a long time ago. Honestly, from what I saw of it, I liked it. I'll put it there. It's kind of just like another generation of like animals in the Pride Lands, and them being like kind of like pseudo kid superheroes protecting the area. I remember it being enjoyable enough. I mean, I think the most interesting aspect of Lion Guard to me was the fact that the main character of the show could just call on the ghost of Mufasa like whenever he wanted. Like, I'm pretty sure in the movies, when Simba was talking to Mufasa in the clouds, he wasn't actually talking to Mufasa, but just seeing like that kind of being his memory, like being like his memory of him being like kind of like actualized in the screen. But in the Lion Guard, like, nope, this kid could just like talk to Mufasa's ghost, and I thought that was kind of fun. Rapunzel's Tangled Adventure. I haven't seen all of it, but from what I've seen of it, I loved it. I think I got like a third of the way through the second season. I definitely should go back and watch more of the show at some point because I loved what I saw of it. It's just like Tangled is one of my favorite Disney movies, so it makes sense that I love this show based on it as well. I mean, I don't know. I feel like up to this point, this is probably the best cartoon based on a Disney movie. I don't know. I feel like a lot. I mean, to be fair, I didn't watch a lot of the earlier ones, but I do definitely like it more than like Lilo and Stitch the series, The Emperor's New School, or Timon and Pumbaa the series. But that's not because I don't like those shows though. I just think this one's feels like it's trying to do more than just be more of the movie. It feels like it's actually trying to continue the story and world of these characters. And I feel like, I don't know, just like, it feels like right at home with those kind of like 2010s story driven cartoons, like right next to things like Gravity Falls and Star vs. the Forces of Evil to me, in the regard of like, oh, let's make these cartoons more narratively compelling. Yeah, like to me, like I already love like Rapunzel and Flynn Rider, and just seeing more of them to me is the good thing. And also like, because usually I feel like a lot of like shows based on movies don't really seem to know what to do with their characters as much. So it's actually kind of awesome to see like a show that actually puts effort into putting like their characters into a new compelling scenario like this. I don't know. The show looks great. I love the art style of the show. The songs are great. And also some of the new characters are really good too. Like Cassandra is a lot of fun. Like she's a great new character. Like I know like some of the things happen with Cassandra later on. Like I did get kind of spoiled on some of the stuff that happens with her. But I'm still compelled to eventually get through the series to see that kind of stuff for myself. Because I believe even if I was spoiled on something, like the execution of what happened is more important than just like knowing what happened anyways. Like sometimes like seeing the context around that like spoiler could still be fine as long as like the writing still holds up, I think. I don't know. Tangled the series is great, but DuckTales is even better. Uh, hmm, I think I'll put it above Wonder Over Yonder, I believe. Yeah, so, I've only seen like a couple episodes of the original DuckTales series, and it's been a long time, so I don't think I could properly rate it. But DuckTales' reboot is legitimately one of my favorite Disney cartoons of all time. It is just like what I was saying with Tangled, the series, I guess, in a slightly different way, because DuckTales originally wasn't a movie. It kind of like retools that original cartoon into like fitting in within the parameters of more like modern day cartoon sensibilities, like being a lot more plot focused and story driven. And I feel like that did wonders for the show because this show is awesome. Like the characters are like so compelling. Honestly, it probably has. It might just have my favorite ensemble cast of characters of any Disney cartoon ever. Like at least up to the point of the shows I've covered on this tier list so far. Like, I might love my favorite characters on Gravity Falls and Phineas and Ferb more, but the cast as a whole on DuckTales is just fantastic. Like, honestly, I before this reboot, I thought like the Huey, Dewey, and Louie, I thought they were fine characters. I didn't really particularly care for them that much. But the new versions in 2017, I love these versions of the characters. Like, oh, these are a lot more like individualized and fleshed out and interesting. Like I could actually recognize them as distinct characters now, and I think that's awesome. Like I feel like TMNT kind of did a similar thing in recent years, like differentiating their characters that used to look exactly the same more. I don't know. It's a good strategy to do because I think like having them be more distinctive is just like makes them more interesting characters. But the thing is, I love the nephews, but they're not even like some of my favorite characters in the show. Because this show's cast of characters are just so good. Like Scrooge himself, Webby, Lena, Launchpad. Oh, and a lot of the villains too. Like Flintheart Glomgold is hilarious. I thought Lunaris was also a compelling antagonist. Magic of Dispel, of course. I don't know, and also some of the other side characters of like the Duck family, like Mrs. Beakley is also great, and of course Donald is there, and he's as funny as ever. Della is awesome. Penumbra is awesome. Uh, Violet's a great character. Um, Fenton's yeah, Fenton and Gizmo, no, Gizmoduck and like Gyro Gearloose. Like, there's a lot of like really just fun characters in the show. Like, it is just there's honestly almost too many good characters in the show to name here. Not like otherwise I'd just be here all day just naming characters I think are great from DuckTales. But also I think like the storyline of the show is also really good because it's like always like just like Gravity Falls is one of the shows where, like you're compelled to see what happened next. And you're like, oh, I need to see what happens in the next episode. Like it, I guess also similar to Gravity Falls, just like really funny, but also just a really compelling character and story wise. And I think that's like my favorite kind of cartoon is a cartoon that compels you in like multiple different ways. Like it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you sit on the edge of your seat to wait what happens next. I don't know. Just a great cartoon. And honestly, surprisingly enough, a cartoon that I was actually allowed to go on for a decent amount of time. Like especially when it comes to like more recent cartoons. I'm surprised DuckTales was able to go for like 3 full seasons and almost like 70 half hours of entertainment. It's great. I mean, Star I think also went on for that long too. But I feel like I don't know. It's just nice that it got as much screen time as it did. DuckTales is awesome. Big Hero 6, the series, is an interesting one because it started out like just as compelling as some of these other shows, like Tangled the series. Like the first season of the Big Hero 6 series is great. But I'll still put it like right here. But I do think that they start with their best foot forward in the show. Like the first season is awesome. Like a lot of the similar praises I gave to like Tangled the series also apply here. Because it feels like they expanded the world of the movie and continued like the story as well in some very interesting, clever ways. But the thing about Big Hero 6 the series is they did that fully for the first season, still kind of did it for the second season, but the third season went almost like purely comedic and episodic, and like I didn't like when they did that. So I guess similarly to Star, it's a show I really loved at first, but eventually kind of lost interest on. Because, but here's the thing: I watched all of Star. I eventually dropped Big Hero 6 the series because I just didn't care what was going on anymore. Even though I loved that first season, I feel like this goes a lot more. Well, I think it goes a lot more in depth to some of the characters like Hero and Baymax and Fred. But if I'm being honest, from what I remember, I don't think they go into as much detail on like characters like Go-Go and Honey and Wasabi as I would have liked. Like they still kind of feel like side characters to me, which is kind of unfortunate because you think they should have gone all out for the like giving them depth in the full series. And they do have a couple episodes of their own each, but it's obvious that they focused more on other characters. That being said, a lot of the new characters in Big Hero 6 the series are great. Like Carmi, I thought was an interesting new character who I feel like they should have done more with. I don't know. I feel like her dynamic with Hero was great, and they just like didn't explore it as much as I hoped they would have. And also, I feel like a lot of the villains of the show were really good. Like Globby was great, and like the big bad of season 1 was great. Noodleburger Boy. There's just a lot of fun characters in the show. I believe the show shares a lot of creatives with Kim Possible, and I think I could easily tell that that was the case because I don't know. It's just a very similarly structured like teenage superhero cartoon, and it shares a lot of DNA with its show, and it shows because it's a great show. or was a great show at first, like the first like 2 seasons. Yeah. Anyway, Big City Greens is the funniest show currently on Disney Channel. Hmm. That might be blasphemous for some, but I love Big City Greens. To me, it is genuinely hilarious and is a contender for like the funniest cartoon Disney Channel's ever had. And like it's also been going on forever at this point. Like it just recently crossed 100 half hours of television, which I do not think a Disney Channel cartoon has done since Phineas and Ferb. Honestly, I feel like barely any Disney cartoons have ever done that. Like it's like DuckTales, Phineas and Ferb. Like I don't think Kim Possible even did that, so I'm glad that Big City Greens was able to go on for so long. But speaking of Big City Greens, like besides the fact that I think it's absolutely hilarious, which makes sense because I think it got a lot of its writers from Gravity Falls. I think a lot of them did work in Gravity Falls first, but they also had a lot of new writers, like specifically Kiana May, who you may now know as the creator of Pretty Pretty Please I Don't Want to Be a Magical Girl, but she got her start as a writer on Big City Greens. And whenever I see an episode's written by her on the show, I'm like, oh, I know I'm in for a good time because she's a great writer. But like, as for the characters themselves in Big City Greens, I'm just like, I love the Green family, and I love a lot of side characters too. It's just like Cricket's just like a very rambunctious, like rule breaking main character, but I feel like he's a lot more grounded. I don't know, the likes of like, I don't know, Bart Simpson or like a Blue from Foster's Home, I guess. I don't know, he feels like he has more depth than the usual ilk of his archetype. And I think he's just a very fun character regardless. Then Tilly feels like she kind of fits that like now I feel like Cricket and Tilly are almost like the opposite of Dipper and Mabel. Whereas Tilly is the more reserved of the two in Big City Greens, and Cricket's the more outgoing, rambunctious one. Even though I do think Tilly kind of is still similar in a way to Mabel, in like the way of her being kind of like a weird girl with an interesting sense of humor, but I do think she's just a really still a funny, charming, likable character. I don't know. Grandma is also really funny in the show. She feels like she's kind of going through like the. At first, I thought she was kind of like going through the motions of being like another like action granny, which is kind of like a done to death kind of character archetype in cartoons. But I feel like she actually has a lot more depth to her than the usual of that ilk, and she's also just really, really funny. I don't know. But my favorite member of the Green family, by far, is the father, Bill Green, because I just think he's like the funniest character on the entire show. But he's also like an interesting character in the regard of like he's very safe, he's very soft spoken, he's very like rather like let his work talk for him than just like himself, I guess. I don't know. I think the kind of humor they developed with Bill as the show went on is just kind of great to me because he's just like I don't know the safe, reasonable farmer, and they kind of almost play into the jokes of how boring he is, and I think it's really funny. But also some of the side characters are great. Like Remy's great, Gloria's great, Vasquez is awesome. He's hilarious. I think it's just fun that Danny Trejo's here and just having fun in his role. It's just so funny, but it also is surprising that it eventually got like an overarching, well, not an overarching narrative, but it does have like a plot that the show follows with its big bad villain Chip Whistler trying to do anything he can to, I think, kill the Greens. It's kind of actually surprisingly. a dark villain. No, not surprisingly dark. He's still a very fun comedic villain, but his motivations are surprisingly dark, I guess, for a show like this. I don't know. It's just a really funny, surprisingly compelling cartoon. I don't know if you've never seen Big City Greens, give it a watch. And Amphibia's even better. Do I dare? I think I do. Honestly, even though I think Gravity Falls is funnier than Amphibia, and I think overall has probably the more compelling mysteries, I think Amphibia's characters are better, and it has an overall more compelling narrative to me. Like Amphibia, but speaking of Amphibia itself, it's just another. I don't know. I feel like after like Gravity Falls, like the humor on Disney Channel started just like becoming more up my alley because I think a lot of these shows became a lot more funny to me after that point. And Amphibia follows suit in that as well. But specifically more than that, like the it's interestingly enough kind of an isekai in the regard of like Anne and some of her friends. Did you learn more about them later in the show? Like get transported to another world called Amphibia, and they have to learn to like survive in that world until they eventually all get characters they kind of like bond with as the show goes on. Like Anne herself starts bonding with the Planter family, a family of anthropomorphic frogs consisting of Hop Pop, the grandpa, then Sprig and Polly, which are the other children of the family. And like even though they're kind of apprehensive to each other at first, like Anne and Sprig and Polly and Hop Pop eventually learn to become like a family unit. And like at first, Anne like wants to get back to Earth as quickly as possible, but as the show goes on, it's just like I'm so attached to like the family unit they made here that I'm kind of would be upset if they just like separate from each other. Which I don't know, I guess I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it, but yeesh. This show had is very it can be very funny, but it also could be genuinely kind of emotionally devastating at times. It's probably my favorite dramatic storytelling of anything we've covered so far. Even though other shows like Gravity Falls and DuckTales and Early Star were also really good at that. I don't know, Amphibia just knew how to tell a good story. Like specifically, I don't want to say too much about it, but Sasha and Marcy are also great characters. Legitimately, I think Marcy might be my favorite character in the entire show. But I feel like it's kind of like they are like surprise reveals later to like, oh, no, it's not really surprising because we see Sasha at the end of the first episode, but it takes a while to get to Marcy. It's just a very fun, compelling show with a great set of characters and a very great story with also some very great villains. It has everything. I don't know. Amphibia's awesome, but you know it's even better. The Owl House. I don't even need to think about it. The Owl House is my favorite Disney cartoon of all time. It's just, I think the humor in Owl House is still really funny. I don't think it's nearly as funny as like Gravity Falls or Amphibia or like Phineas and Ferb or Mickey Mouse shorts or something like that, or Wonder of Yonder. But I feel like a bunch of the other areas of the show are even more compelling than that. Like specifically, I just said Amphibia was probably the most compelling plot that we had in the channel so far. And I think that the Owl House competes for that definitely. I don't know if the Owl House definitively would win in that regard to me, but it definitely is a competitor for like the best like story of a Disney Channel cartoon. But speaking of the show itself, as I said earlier, I love the kind of like fun, happy-go-lucky kind of main character that kind of goes along with like Mabel and Wanda and Star. And even though she's a little bit more reserved, I feel like Luce still like follows in the character's footsteps, and I just love that kind of character archetype. And of course, like I love like the cast of characters in the Owl House as a whole, though, because like Luce is a great main character, but Ida is also a fantastic character. King's a lot of fun. I like Gus and Willow, but I don't know. I think they're good characters, but I do not love them as much as a lot of the rest of the cast, though. But then I do also love like a lot of the other characters in the show, like Lilith and Hunter and Rain. The show has a ton of like great characters and great like character story arcs and like a lot of good like fight scenes and emotional storytelling. It just has like it's just a very very well told story in this show that I love and I wish we could have seen in full. Because instead of getting the full third season like we were supposed to, they shortened it to just like 3 hour long specials instead. And I loved those hour long specials, don't get me wrong, but I wish we could have just gotten the entire season in full instead because I'm like, it still hurts to this day. It happened like over 2 years ago, but I still wish we could have got the full third season of The Owl House. I feel like I'm never going to get that closure. I mean, we got the closure to the series, and like I thought the finale was fantastic, but I just wish we could have got like the original planned full season instead. Because I'm like, I wanted so much. I love the Owl House so much. I wish we could have gotten as much of it as possible. Which is kind of interesting now because I feel like after it ended, Disney finally realized just how overwhelmingly popular it was. Like people loved this show. They just never merchandised it well, and I think that's one of the main reasons why it never it was never like deemed profitable by the company until it ended is they just didn't know how to merchandise it. But I assure you, if they merchandised it properly, it could have made them bank. I don't know though. But I feel like the main thing I want to talk about the Owl House though is just like I feel like some other shows in the channel, like to a very lesser extent, like shows like Amphibia, Star vs. the Force, Evil, Gravity Falls, and DuckTales reboot, do also have some pretty good LGBT representation in them. But The Owl House is debatably like one of the best cartoons ever in that regard. So it's hard to compete with it, I guess, in that aspect. Like, I don't know, my favorite thing about The Owl House is just its LGBT representation because like Luce and Amity's like character development in their relationship is just like so like compelling. It's just like a joy to watch them like go from starting the show as enemies but eventually growing to like be friends and then eventually lovers. It's just a very compelling storyline and it's just like honestly they're just really cute together. I like seeing them together on screen. Same thing with some of the other characters in the show, like Ida and Rain are also really cute together. Also, another thing with Rain is like I believe it's one of I don't know if it's Disney Channel's first non-binary character, but it's definitely they're definitely one of them. And I think they're a great character. Like I know there are even more characters in the Owl House that are LGBT that I didn't mention right now, but I can't think of any more off the top of my head besides just Luce, Amity, Ida, and Rain. But that's four more than most shows have. So yeah, it's just a great show. Genuinely, probably one of my top five favorite cartoons of all time. The Owl House is awesome, and I wish we could have gotten more of it. Gosh, I'm so disappointed we didn't get more of it. Anyway, what's next? Monsters at Work. I saw a couple episodes of this when it first came out. Genuinely, it was fine. It honestly felt like more Monsters Inc., but less compelling and more. I mean, I didn't finish the season, so I don't think it'd be fair to me to say all of this, I guess, because I didn't finish it. But it felt like more directionless than the movie, because I feel like the thing about movies that make them compelling is they need to have the plot going quickly. So you need to know what we're doing for the plot. But from what I got there, it was just kind of like a workplace comedy with in the world of Monsters Inc. And I just didn't find that nearly as compelling as the movie. I mean, I love Monsters Inc. the movie, but I feel like my favorite parts of the show from what I watched was just whenever Mike and Sully popped up. I genuinely, the new characters were fine, I guess, but I didn't really care for them, if I'm being honest. It's fine. I don't have too much to say about Monsters at Work. The Ghost and Molly McGee is great. I love it. Genuinely, I'd probably put it. I think I ever like it more than that. Yeah, there. I love the Ghost and Molly McGee. As I said, I love those kinds of like happy, infectious protagonists, and Molly fits that perfectly. I also said I love the kind of like that good like character dynamic between main characters, and Molly and Scratch have a great character dynamic between them. Like Molly being like the happy-go-lucky, optimistic one, and Scratch being the more like grumpy, cynical, sarcastic of the two. And they play off each other very, very well. But one of my favorite things about Ghost and Molly McGee is the overarching narrative of the show being like, oh, Molly and her family moved to this new town, but it's kind of like a very like dull, gloomy place where a lot of the populace are sad. So like Molly's goal is like trying to make the townspeople in that place as happy as possible, which I think is a very noble goal, and it's just also very fun to watch. I don't know, it's just like I feel like a lot of people kind of need that kind of optimism right now. So if you haven't seen it, The Ghost of Molly McGee is a very fun, cozy, charming watch. It's also very funny, has great characters, and a very interesting overarching narrative. I mean, the narrative of the show is not as like overwhelming as that of like The Owl House or DuckTales or Amphibia, but it's definitely still there, and it's still great. And also, the show is just like I don't know. I love the characters. The jokes are really funny. The overall narrative of the show is compelling. I thought the songs were pretty good, but I don't like the songs in uh, the Ghost of Melanie McGee. I don't think it's nearly as consistent with them as like something like Phineas and Ferb or Mile Murphy's Law, but I think they're decent songs. Yeah, I mean, there's some other characters in the show I do really like as well. Like I think Libby and Andre are also really fun, and also just the rest of Molly's family. It's just a very fun, likable, charming cast of characters. Great show. Very underrated show too. I mean, I'm not surprised it only got 2 seasons, but I wish it could have gotten a third one. But if the Owl House didn't get a third season, I mean, they did get a third season. But if the Owl House didn't get a full third season, then I don't think the Ghost of Melanie McGee like really had a chance of getting one either. I don't know. Great show, miss it already. Chibiverse is an interesting one because overall, it's kind of similar to House of Mouse in a way, in which just like a bunch of shorts with like interstitials of like original animations between like characters. But those characters in this one are like a crossover of, like almost all like the Disney TV characters before it. And I feel like Chibiverse is a lot cheaper than House of Mouse in that regard. I mean, it's called Chibiverse because of course it's gonna be like it's the character designs they have from Chibi Tiny Tales that Disney's already been doing for like the last decade, but in a more like cohesive narrative structure. But at first, it was just like those shorts of the characters interacting with each other in between the silent shorts that they already had that do not that mostly do not have crossovers themselves. With that being said, the recent third season of Chibiverse that came out, where they removed the interstitial shorts completely, and it just became like all about like the new shorts and the new interactions between the characters. I thought those were great. Like I loved the third season of Chibiverse. Like, or maybe loved is a strong word. I thoroughly enjoyed them in their in the aspect of like, oh, I love that a lot of these characters are returning and a lot of the voice actors are having fun with their roles again. And I could like point at the screen and say like, oh, I know that character. I don't know. I guess like Chibiverse is still kind of just like a cheap fan servicey kind of show, but it's servicing fandoms that I love, so it's made for me. I don't know. But despite that, I feel like honestly, since like the earlier stuff of the show is just like those shorts, like mostly just like the shorts in between. Like there was like minimal new animation actually in between like the first two seasons of Chibiverse, and I feel like that weighs it down a lot for now. But I think I will eventually move it up to higher tiers if it keeps continuing in the direction it's going now. Like if we have more episodes of like how Chibiverse is now, then I could definitely, I don't know. I think I would definitely enjoy it a lot more going forward. Hamster and Gretel, unfortunately enough, even though I love Phineas and Ferb and Mount Murphy's Law, I think Hamster and Gretel is just fine. I tried to get into it, but it just didn't have the same spark as creativity to me as like Phineas and Ferb and Milo did. To me, it just feels like it kind of just feels like it's going through the through the motions of like, hey, here's just another cartoon from these creators, which kind of feels like a bad thing to say because I love their first. It's not even the duo. It's not Dan and Swampy. It's just Dan. I don't know. Maybe they need to work together to balance each other out to have like the creative like stuff they had before, like Phineas and Ferb and Milo. I really hope them both being here for like the Phineas and Ferb revival means that's going to be as good as the other two, like the original two shows, because I don't think I'd be able to. I don't think I'd want to deal with the fact of it being as good as Hamster and Gretel. I mean, Hamster and Gretel is fine. It's not bad. It's just only mildly amusing and occasionally funny in comparison to Phineas and Ferb and Milo. And also the songs aren't nearly as good either. The songs are fine, but they're nothing special to write home about. I mean, to be fair, maybe the show did get better later on because I only saw like the first dozen or so episodes. But to me, that's enough of a show to watch to realize like, I wasn't compelled enough to continue watching beyond that point, honestly. And I think there's a good reason why for that. It just felt like I was just going through the motions. I don't know. On the other hand, Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. Oh man. Yeah, it's genuinely fantastic. It's just like this is a show to me that did everything right. Like I love the art style, I love the animation, I love the characters, I love the story, I love the jokes, I love the songs. Like everything about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur just works. And I feel kind of like how is this the first black protagonist for a Disney cartoon since Proud Family? I think it might just be. That's fascinating. Honestly, this show being as good as it is makes me wish they actually would do that more often. Because as I said earlier, I love learning about like different cultures and stuff. And I feel like TV is a very good window into doing that. So I guess more generally about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, besides me just like talking overall about like what I think the quality of the show is, I just think the show was just a ton of fun to watch. Like I think it's like a lot kind of like in the similar structure to something like Big Hero 6 the series or Kim Possible in the way it feels like a villain of the week kind of thing. But honestly, I feel like the it has an overarching narrative like the first season of Big Hero 6 that but I feel like it goes more all out with that through the entire show. Like I feel like the overall quality of Moon Girl is definitely higher than Big Hero 6 the series for like the Disney TV Marvel cartoons. I guess this doesn't include like the more specific Marvel cartoons. Like I noticed like Ultimate Spider-Man and Earth's Mightiest Heroes and stuff like that aren't in here, but I don't really mind if they're not, if I'm being honest. I think I'm gonna genuinely say I think Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is probably my favorite Marvel cartoon of all time. It's just I don't know. I feel like Moon Girl is a very good protagonist in the way of like I don't know. I feel like it kind of similar to like shows like I guess like Dexter's Lab or Jimmy Neutron in terms of like having a really smart protagonist. But I feel like those protagonists usually aren't girls, so I feel like that is actually another point in like variety for this show that makes it like kind of unique. And also, she's just a very like fun character. She's like usually those kinds of like main like smart characters are usually kind of like sticks in the mud, but Lunella is not. She's like very fun character, even though like she's very smart, but she's also just like more well-rounded than that because she's just like a very fun, like entertaining character beyond just her intelligence. I don't know. Devil Dinosaur himself is also a very fun character. Of course, he's like a big dinosaur animal character, so he doesn't talk, but he's really dynamic and expressive despite that. He's a very cute character who I like a lot. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about the other characters in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur all day too. I mean, I should at the very least bring up Lunella's best friend Casey, who is also a great character. Like she's kind of like this social media influencer girl, but that she uses that to the advantage of like being able to advertise for Lunella and kind of being her pseudo, well, not sidekick, I guess, more of her manager, I guess, is the role she feels like she fills. I don't know. I feel like I really love their like friendship dynamic as well. They just have like a really fun like chemistry between them. I mean, along with like Lunella and like Devil as well. And I guess like the other character I want to mention here is the Beyonder, who I just think is kind of like a Discord from MLP kind of like character who like started out as a villain, but eventually became like friends with the characters are like in the dimension around him because he's like an interdimensional traveler who could like snap his fingers to do whatever he wants. I don't know. I feel like it's like a very compelling narrative to have like those like infinitely powerful characters just like eventually learn to love like the small things in life. It's just a very compelling narrative. And I guess beyond that, Beyonder's just like a really just like entertaining, fun character, and he's just like whenever he's on screen, you're just like, oh, he's just so fun. He's just so entertaining. I mean, I can keep on gushing about like everything about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, but I think I'll close out this section of the show just by talking about how much I love the music in this show. Like the music is more of like it changes episode to episode, kind of like with the music fight scenes they have, but like they're mainly like these like hip hop song mixes that I think are just like they're tailor made for like whatever the fight scene of the current episode is, like in the climax, and it's just like every single time I'm just like, oh, this is cool. This looks awesome. This sounds awesome. Like this shows fight scenes because of the music choices and like the color choices and like the animation like for the fights themselves. I think are my favorite fights of anything on this channel. They're great. It's just like, oh, this is like this is what like animation was made to do. I don't know. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur is awesome. Kif. I really like Kif, but I need to watch more of it. I've only seen like a handful of episodes of it so far, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the ones I've seen so far. So I really should watch more of the show because I do think it's really cute and funny. Yeah, it's a fun show. Just need to watch more. Haley's on it. I have only seen the first episode of, so maybe I need to see more of it to be able to make a full. I mean, no, it means I put it here, right? It means I put it in this section. I mean, I was gonna say I thought the first episode of the show was just fine, but I'm like, that's just one episode. You can't rate an entire show in one episode. Maybe I should try more of it as well. I mean, I'm kind of scrounging to find cartoons to watch right now, so maybe I should just go back and watch some of the ones I haven't seen as much from before. That probably would be a good idea. Honestly, while I'm at it, I should probably do the same thing for Stugo, because I only saw the first episode of the show so far, and I also thought it was just fine. But maybe I'll like it more if I watch more episodes of it. I guess that means the last cartoon we have to talk about on this list is Primos, which recently I've actually watched. I actually watched Primos for the first time like 2 days ago. And I'm enjoying it so far, actually. Like, I know it had like a lot of controversy when it was first revealed, but if I'm being honest, I don't remember what the exact controversies of the show were. Like, I saw definitely of them, but not the specifics of that. Anyway, from what I've seen, it definitely feels like it's trying to like fit that like niche of like the out no the Loud House and like the Casa Grandes from like Nickelodeon. I could kind of tell every once in a while it feels like executives are like, oh, that show is successful, so we should greenlight something like that show. Which I'm usually fine with, because if the original show it's based on is good, then that means the show that like it was inspired from it, which should also be good. Which in this case it is. Like I don't know. From what I've seen so far, Primo's, I'm like, as a fun cast of characters, it's genuinely really funny. Like the humor here is good. The characters are fun. I am interested to actually see more of it. I believe it might have ended after the one season, but I'm like, man, if that's the case, then I'll actually be kind of disappointed. I think because after hearing all this shit talk about it for years, I'm like, and actually watching it, I'm like, oh, it's good. I like it. It kind of feels like disappointing because after the massive backlash the show got when it was first announced, I was like, no way this show is getting a second season. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like this show, to me, I wouldn't say the songs are as good as like Phineas and Ferb or Moon Girl or something like that, but I do think the songs in Primos are better than that of The Ghost and Melon McGee or Hamster and Gretel. That being said, this is a show I've only seen like I think I've seen like 8 episodes of it so far. I definitely want to see more of. So I guess I don't really have a full in-depth opinion of it yet, but I do think it's funny. I like the characters. I think it's just a nice, fun, charming cartoon. Oh, and that's it. Okay, so I guess that is my Disney Channel cartoon tier list. But let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. I think I want to even these tiers out a little bit. I want to. No, they deserve to be up there though. I think I'm gonna narrow down the top row to at least just a top five, honestly. because I think the top five is neater to look at. Hmm. Yeah, that looks good. I mean, calling like that many different shows favorites kind of feels disingenuous because almost like I feel like that should be like a more narrow category on purpose. I should try to limit myself for it. Yeah, yeah, that looks good. So yeah, that was my Disney Channel cartoon tier list. Yeah. Well, see you guys again for whenever I do another one of these. Bye.